So what was the title again? The title was, Does the concept of non-doer-ship matter in non-duality? To be honest, nothing really matters. That title, I just gave that title as a little bit of juice to get us going. Does it matter? Nothing matters. I don't think that you have to understand the concept of non-doership in order for this energetic shift to happen. In this moment right here, to beingness, to consciousness, to what we truly are, from the absolute perspective, it's irrelevant, non-doership or doership. It doesn't matter. It's absolutely irrelevant. In this moment, whether your action comes from a separate individual or from life itself doesn't even come into play. That's a concept which you think about in time, which is okay to think about that in time. There's nothing wrong with that. But it's not the way things are. This moment is free of any concept. It doesn't care. It doesn't care about good or bad or right or wrong, or having or not having, getting or not getting, trouble or not trouble. Just free to be as it is. It doesn't even make sense, concepts here. There's nothing to make sense of it. It's the brain that makes sense of concepts. And what's happened is that you've become identified with thoughts that are produced by the brain, with images that are produced by the brain, and feelings, I suppose, that are also produced by the brain. And there's been an identification with that and a story made about you and that that's who you are. Whereas that's not really who you are. Who you are is this moment. It's beyond concept. It's beyond knowledge. It's beyond something. And it's only here. It's not something you can arrive to. It's not something you can get. It's not something you had. It's not something you remember. It's not something you can buy. It's just here, just now. The mind enjoys the intellect. It's not even the mind, but there is lots of pleasure that can be produced by the intellect. So if you have a good story, it can produce really nice feelings and experiences. And if you have a negative story, it can produce really painful and ugly experiences. And there is an enjoyment, there is a seeking for the good experiences. But it's actually not what you want. You don't want anything that's transitory. No, I forgot how to say that word. That's transient. I sometimes have a lot of comments about my mispronunciation of words. It's actually because I have an area in my brain which doesn't process words properly and sounds properly and connects them all. So I mispronounce words and say things wrong. And I actually think it's a really beautiful area because it doesn't keep me too contained to words. I feel like if I stopped speaking for a year, I would begin to forget language. But it means that I struggle to pronounce them and remember them and get them in order. I sometimes get my sentences back to front. But just so you know why I'm saying my words wrong and that it's not something that can be repaired. I can't go into my brain, and I don't want to go into my brain and fix that area. So imagine now you're not speaking from a place. I'm not speaking from a place. It just seems like that. So it seems like every action you do, everything you say, every movement you do comes from a person which you're imagining going through time. But actually in this moment, when you really come back down to what's happening now, everything is appearing from this moment and disappearing into this moment. And there's not actually somebody speaking. Even though we say, I speak, I am speaking, that's not actually the truth. That's just the way our language works. It's just the way in which we communicate as human beings, but it's not actually true. So I have a dog who apparently has a brain the size of a walnut, but I've never opened up a dog's brain to actually have a good look. When she's barking at the neighbour's cat, she doesn't sit there and think, I am barking at the neighbour's cat. I am a bad dog for barking at the neighbour's neighbour's cat. She might see me coming and be like, ooh, mustn't do it, ooh, and go and hide. But when she's in the action of it, she doesn't think, firstly, that she's barking at the cat. Secondly, that she's barking at a separate, independent entity. She's not inside her like, oh God, the poor cat, how must the cat might feel? So she doesn't imagine herself to be someone, and she also doesn't imagine the cat to be somebody. Like from both ends, there is nobody speaking to nobody. Because how would she imagine that? If she doesn't have language, how does she imagine herself as a dog? So we imagine herself as a human. So you then think, oh, she imagines herself as her image, but if she looks in the mirror, she doesn't recognize herself. She doesn't know that what she sees in the mirror is her reflection. She hasn't got that capacity in her brain, so her experiencing is very simple. There's obviously thinking there, but it's not thinking in language because she doesn't know language. She maybe knows some words from me. So she's not concerned that she's doing it and concerned that she's upsetting. Although if I come out, her body has a response because it's trained to know that I don't approve of barking at the cat, so she'll quickly, although that's not actually true because I don't care if she barks at the cat. I don't want her to catch the cat, but I don't care if she chases the cat out of the garden. It's just a hypothetical example. So what does that mean? Well, it comes back to doer-ship. Even though I'd forgotten the title was about doer-ship, it does actually come back to doer-ship. So it means that you aren't the doer. That sentence is actually irrelevant right here. But when we think about it in time, we can realize in the timeline that you're not the doer. This can be very relaxing psychologically, because there's a lot of psychological mistakes that the person makes and forms, primarily being, I am the doer. I am somebody that has choice and free will, and then it suffers because of its actions, or it suffers because of its neighbor's action. So what happens when you begin to live a lie, when you begin to live as a separate person? You build up all these false ideas which feel really real to you. That I am a doer, I'm interacting with people, they're the doer, they're good, they're bad, I'm good, I'm bad, this should happen, this shouldn't happen. And you build up this whole fantasy world that's not really happening, and it becomes real to you, it becomes truth. And what is your home, who you truly are, becomes forgotten. It's covered by this other stuff. And you could say waking up is that cracking open, seeing beyond the dream of thoughts, feelings, emotions, sensations, experiences, and believing that that is a separate entity or body. And that that's who you are. You're not a person sitting listening to me now. And your problems aren't in the flow of life. So maybe you think your problems are because of money worries, because of your partner, because of what happened, because of your kids, because of what's going to happen, because you made the wrong choice, because you haven't got non-duality. And all of this is a lie. None of it's true. Your problems are simply because you're disconnected from who you are. And that disconnect happens by believing that you are a limitation and that you are a person that goes through time. The other big illusion that arises for many is the idea that they are going to get enlightened, and one day they're going to sit on the throne of being enlightened. But who gets enlightened? Who? I'm certainly not enlightened. You can give that badge to someone else. I mean, you don't want that title. Because who would be enlightened? Who would have achieved something and claimed something? That can only be a story going through time. On my website I tell a story of an experience, but even that's so far away now. It's like a distant dream. All we have is right now, this moment, and everything else that comes before is fiction. But we don't think that, we think it's fact. We think our life is fact, our society is fact, our friends is fact, who we are is fact, our bank's balance is fact. And we think that life is happening logically. But science is beginning to prove, they're on the cuffs of proving, sort of like the very start line of proving, that more than likely reality is determined by that which looks at reality. So if you believe in limitations, then that's what you'll experience. If you believe in suffering, then that's what you'll experience. And then you could say, who is it that's believing? It's the brain that's believing, obviously. So it's the brain that's producing particular filters. And then beyond that, it's consciousness that's creating. You could actually say it's beyond consciousness, it's mystery that's creating, it's something which is not known, which is creating everything. But that's who you are, that's the most intimate sense of being. That can often sound really removed. It's actually what's here right now in this moment. That's that which is looking out, it's that feeling of being. That is God, that is the divine. Most of the time what people want is they want experiences of being free for them. Like they want to be free. They want to know non-duality. And this is missing the whole point, because the you isn't a fixed thing. There isn't someone called you that can get to non-duality. There isn't someone called you that can have it. Who is this I that you believe yourself to be? In every moment there is experiences appearing, but there isn't a solid you that can get to non-duality. It feels so real though, and the person's like, yeah, but, who? Who is this person? And the reason that it wants to get something is because it feels uncomfortable. And it believes if I get enlightened, if I get to non-duality, I'll stop feeling uncomfortable. But it can't see that that is the illusion, that you can never get to freedom, that you are freedom right here, right now, this presence, this I am and this empty looking, or this everything and nothing.